Should we all buy Spirit Airlines? Did your financial advisor put you into bad investments? And who's more important, puppies or babies? Let's find out. Welcome back to the Personal Finance Club show. Hey, Jen.
Jeremy, tell me something good.
I have a question for you. When you go out to dinner, do you have any friends, first of all, do you have any friends that have like different economic statuses than you? They're either like much wealthier or much less wealthy?
For sure.
And when you go to dinner with them, how do you decide who pays? I guess what I'm really asking like, is if you go to dinner with someone rich, do you expect them to pay? Or if they pay, do you let them pay? Like what's your dynamic in that situation?
Interesting question, because when you first asked the question, yes, I have friends of different economic statuses, but I don't know if there's enough disparity for it to be like, hey, you're the rich friend. Like I have friends that have a lot more money than me, but not enough to be like, you're always paying. You know what? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Like I don't like if I go to dinner with you, it's different because you're my boss. You know what I'm saying? And you're a millionaire. So I'd be like, Jeremy.
Do you have any friends who are like millionaires that you would like go to dinner with?
I don't think I have any millionaire friends, Jeremy. You're my only millionaire friend.
Okay.
And we've never gone to dinner.
And I'm buying. Didn't I try to buy you lunch and we didn't have time or something?
Yeah. You jetted out on the bill. You were like, you got to get your own lunch.
I ate my food. I just left. You had to pay for everyone.
I'm going back to San Diego. So yeah, but I'd say like with my friends that are like within the same range as me, it'll be like last night I went to the movies with my friend and I paid for him. Last week we went and he paid for me. Like it just was like, It's not that big. Even though movies in Los Angeles do cost $25 freaking
few $100s, right?
It's crazy for IMAX. So, but that's more like we make around the same amount of money, give or take.
Yeah. I like, I'm not rich. My public about my net worth, it's like around $7 million right now. So it's obviously I'm doing extremely well, but I'm not like a billionaire or even 100 million or even a 10 million. I'm not in the 1%, but for sure, if I go out to lunch with like a friend of mine that, isn't super wealthy, like I'm happy to pay and I want to pay, but I always assumed like you kind of said like, oh, if I have a super rich, they always pay kind of friend. I don't think that happens.
Right.
I think it's like you always are in this like weird like social situation, which is like, oh, just because they're rich, they don't have to pay for me, or there's like a pride thing, or there's and not that paying is take someone pride away or whatever, but I don't know, I found that just because I can afford to cover people's lunches or whatever, it doesn't become easy. It still is kind of like this weird, who's going to grab the check thing.
Weird dynamic, yeah.
Well,
I once went out, Kevin. So go ahead.
I once went to a birthday dinner of a friend of mine, and she had a friend who I didn't know, but he was like rich, like, add a couple of zeros to my number, kind of like rich, like don't even, like rich.
It was Elon Musk.
Yeah. Well, it was E. Musk. No, let's just call him Elon M. I don't want to say who it was. No, it was not Elon Musk, but it was, some, tech entrepreneur who had a very big exit or whatever it is. And it was in Vegas. And he invited us to like this sushi dinner at the Bellagio. And like, it was like the most amazing dinner I've ever had. Like our like private dining room was like overlooking, like literally on top of the Bellagio pool,
the fountain,
and they just and he's at the beginning, he's like, hey, do you mind if I just like have the chef bring like whatever and we'll just all eat? And I'm like, hell yeah, do that. And so like the first course came, was like this like little tiny thing, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna leave hungry. But then like course after course after course, and I was so stuffed, and I was like kind of estimating this bill. I'm like, this bill must be $10,000. And he kind of was like, oh, I'm a regular here, and so I've got credits, and like he kind of said something like, this is all covered because I gamble here, and so they cover my dinners and things like that. But I'm almost positive that's not true. I think that he was telling like a little white lie to make us not feel bad about, because to him, like spending $5 or $10,000 on dinner is like me spending like $1 on a gumball machine or something, right?
Right.
Like if you take off 2 zeros, like I said, like $10,000 becomes $100, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll spend $100, no problem.
Right.
So I think he was telling a white lie. I think he just put down his credit card and just paid the bill. But I think that he had to tell a white lie, because if he's like, oh, I'll cover it, then we've got this big like, oh no, I feel bad, blah, blah, blah. And so it is weird, this dynamic when you have money and who pays.
Yeah, I was thinking about a Kevin Hart joke that he told when he started to get rich and had all these big specials and was famous, but not famous. And he was hang out with like basketball players, NBA players, professionals. And then they would like rent out Disneyland for like their kid's birthday party. And he'd be like, oh, I don't have rent out Disneyland money. Like I'm rich and
No.
I'm doing well and I have a Netflix special, but like I don't have like, oh, we got courtside, whatever. You know what I mean? He was like now he has all of the money in the world. But like
Right.
I was interested in that. Like he made it a funny joke, but it was like, oh yeah, what happens? I think that's more awkward when your like friends want to do something that's really expensive and you like
Right.
can't because they're in the upper echelon. You're like, oh well, how do I navigate that? Like, girl, I'm too broke. I mean, with my friends, I'd be like, I'm too broke, girl. Like,
Right. You just say it.
like yeah,
I know that too. I've had a friend who like, oh, let's get a private plane, like let's get a private jet and fly to Michigan to see a football game.
yeah,
I was like, I'm down, but I'm not splitting it. Like you're
yeah,
paying for the whole thing. I'm
yeah,
coming
yeah.
for free, just to be
Yeah.
clear. Like
If
I'm
somebody
not
has
private
PJ
jet rich
money,
yet.
you can be
Yeah.
frank with them. Be like,
Yeah.
you got PJ money. You're suggesting it. You pay.
Oh, she knows the acronym for private jet. Okay. I'm not even PJ. I'm not even say PJ rich. I'm like private plane. I stumble over my words. I don't know what it's called.
That's just rap music, honestly.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
good question, Jeremy.
Music,
That
music bailed
what?
you out again. Music informed you about PJs.
Yeah, I have no experience. I feel like also half the rappers probably have no experience. They're just talking their big game.
No,
So
that's right.
yeah,
They rent one out for an hour so they can like take their photos.
it happens.
As
Okay,
much
should
as
we
all
get into the
right.
episode?
Yeah, let's get PJ rich. How do we do it?
Okay, let's get into hot topic.
What's today's hot topic?
Well, actually, I clipped together two videos that I thought you might enjoy. They came across my TikTok timeline, and this is like I don't know how much you get on TikTok, but a lot of times you'll have somebody make a video, it'll go super viral, and then you'll go to their page to see like the follow-up. So this guy made a video about Spirit Airlines. So let's watch the video and talk about it because I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I have seen this video before. This is not a scroll patrol, but let's watch it.
Okay, I had a genius idea. Spirit Airlines just went bankrupt, right? I'm the guy that flew Spirit Airlines for 24 hours straight. There's more than 250 million individuals over the age of 18 in the United States. Now, if we took only 20% of them and paid basically the average fare of a Spirit Airlines flight, which is somewhere around $30 to $40, we could buy Spirit Airlines. This is a genius idea. We nationalize Spirit Airlines, owned by the people. Airline's gone. We make a new airline. Let's buy an airline. I should make a Venmo for this. Okay, so it's been about 2.5 hours, and y'all are really interested in all of us buying Spirit Airlines. So I made a website. It's called letsbuyspirit.com. Register your intent. I won't take any money. We're not going to use the Venmo anymore. That was kind of a joke. And we're going to try and, I guess, buy Spirit Airlines. Let's do this. You, me, I'm kind of autistic, and I really like airplanes. So vote for me as CEO. Are we actually doing this?
That sounds like
right.
something you would do.
That was a very, I mean, yeah, he's a fellow influencer, if that's what our content creator.
He's funny.
Yeah, that was a very hype video, and it had very like uplifting music, and he kind of, it's one of these like borderline finance videos where he kind of like starts multiplying numbers together real fast and kind of gives this air of credibility,
Yeah.
and then he's like very excited, and he says, "Oh, this thing's blowing up." It's like got 50,000 views, which like by TikTok, Instagram real standard is very few. I mean, obviously some people here like would be happy to get 1,000 views on a video, which is great, but like 50,000 views ain't like by Spirit kind of grassroots effort, right? And so, Spirit shut down. I'm sure everyone knows that by this point, but I kind of want to talk about this idea because it is kind of a funny idea, and it seems like, could we do this? And first of all, he's like, this is like classic entrepreneur math. There's 250 million people over 18 in the U.S. If we just get 20%, I'm like, just 20%? Getting 1 out of 5 Americans to all give you 30 or 40 bucks? That's like, actually, I did the math. That's 1.5 to $2 billion. If you can get 20% of Americans to give you 30 bucks, you'll have one of the most fabulously successful companies in the country. So you can't just do that with a 50,000 view TikTok reel where people are like laughing along. So first of all, it'd be very, very, very hard to raise that money. Let's give him credit for actually being able to raise the 1.5 to $2 billion. What would actually happen? So I think this video is like, oh, we'll just own an airline. And he kind of said, we'll nationalize it, which nationalizing something means the government owns it, I think. He really means the public is owning it, which kind of what was already happening. It already was a publicly traded company. The public already did own it. And the problem was exactly this, which is the airline wasn't making money. And we actually know a lot of this because in 2024, they declared bankruptcy and gave like an extremely detailed accounting of their finances. And they're saying, hey, this is our problem, and declaring bankruptcy is like one step towards what happened, which is ceasing operations. You can sometimes declare bankruptcy and say, hey, we can't pay our debts anymore. Help us, legally restructure that debt, pay them back on a different schedule, less money, whatever it is, so we can keep operating. So hopefully they're left with something rather than nothing. But it finally got to a point recently where they just ceased operations altogether. And now if you show up at the airport with a Spirit ticket, you have nothing. By the way, also, I've heard some people complain that they had Spirit like flight credits, and they also are going to get nothing from that. You got burned. Sorry.
Yikes.
But so like, let's say the guy got his $2 billion. He bought Spirit. In 2024, their net revenue was $4.9 billion. That means they sold essentially $4.9 billion worth of tickets, which is great. Unfortunately, their expenses were more than that. In fact, their net profit after all of their expenses was negative. They had a net loss of $1.23 billion. That means just to have a day of running Spirit Airlines, selling tickets, working the counter, baggage claim, flying the planes, paying their debts, doing everything that Spirit Airlines does to like get through a day, they were losing $3.4 million a day. So if we as a group got together and like bought this like distressed airline, in order for it to do something like fly planes around, we would be losing $3 million a day. Thus, this entire problem that Spirit Airlines was in, which is why they stopped operating, which is they can't keep losing money indefinitely or else they have to stop. So first of all, that's the big problem, right? You're losing money. Let's look at some other issues. The purchase price. He said, $1.5 to $2 billion based on the math, but you could actually probably get it for cheaper because I don't know like where his number came from, but these distressed companies that are in bankruptcy or have ceased operations, you can kind of buy them for pennies on the dollar because they're not profitable. And you sometimes pay like a fraction of what the revenue was. You pay for their like book value, like the value of all of their stuff they have. But best estimates, I could say maybe you could buy Spirit Airlines today for about $700 million because they have some things of value. So for example, what you might get if you bought them. So by the way, to his credit, if you have 1.5 billion, 700 million is about half of that. So he would have 700 million left over, which would be some very necessary working capital to get things going. But if you bought Spirit Airlines, you would get the FAA operating certificate, which is good. To start operating a new airline in the US is difficult. You have to prove to the government that you are, certified and have pilots. And I don't know anything about flights, so don't hold me to all this, but it takes years and it's very expensive to get that. So that would be a good thing. You'd also get all of your airport gates and slots, all those different gates that are reserved for Spirit Airlines. That real estate is expensive, and other airlines would maybe want those gates. So that's valuable too. You might think you're like, oh, what would we get? Like a few hundred planes? Unfortunately, no, you don't, because Spirit Airlines didn't own the planes. Most airlines actually leased the planes. And so they're renting their planes. And so that $3 million a day they're losing, part of that cost is in plane rentals. And when you buy the company, the lessor, the people giving you the planes, are going to want their payments because they didn't sell it to you 3 years ago, and now you're buying the paid for planes. You're just buying the obligation to keep paying it back. So that's rough. 1 month of expenses for Spirit Airline includes fuel, $98 million. This is again from their bankruptcy filing in 2024. Salaries, you have to pay for pilots, flight attendants, gate agents, mechanics, baggage workers, food suppliers, customer service, etc. That costs $138 million per month. Landing fees, when you like land in an airport, you have to pay the airport to like run, pay their air traffic controllers and pave their runway and, build the airport and everything. That's $38 million a month. Aircraft rent, we just talked about, $52 million a month. Maintenance, you got to maintain all these aircraft, $18 million a month. Ticketing overhead, this is things like credit card fees, travel agency commissions. So if you book a flight through Expedia or Google Flights or whatever it is, like Spirit's got to pay those websites to like send you their customers. Other marketing costs, all those ads you see, that's $34 million per month. Add all that up, that's $15 million per day. And so when I say they're losing $3 million a day, the problem is they're only selling $12 million a day worth of tickets, but they're spending $15 million a day to do all that stuff to keep the business running. And so, buying Spirit Airlines, what you would get was this this money pit that's dissolving. And so that's why they're in so much trouble. Plus, if you actually wanted planes to fly again, you need a lot of cash. Airlines typically need 3 to 6 months of liquid cash to make sure that airports know that they can cover their bills and workers know their salaries going to be covered and the landing fees are covered and the rent's covered, blah, blah, blah. And so that's another $1.8 billion of cash you need. And so basically, this is like the Jeremy No Fun party, but as cool as it would be if we all owned an airline, you would really have a mess on your hands. And he used the word nationalized, but it wasn't nationalized, kind of implies the government owns it and then we all get to use it for free or something, and other, net of our taxes. But he was really saying, hey, if individuals all chipped in money, but we already have that system. It's called the stock market. And you can go buy a share of Delta stock. I'm going to go Google it right now. What does a share of Delta stock cost right now? Delta stock. It is $72.92 a share, about the cost of the cheapest one-way Delta flight. So you can go buy a share of Delta stock and you'll be a share of owner of Delta. The problem is, I think he's implying if we all own it together, then we get to fly for free or something. But that's not true because you still have to cover the fuel and the salaries and the landing fees and the aircraft rent and the maintenance and the ticketing overhead and the workers, blah, blah, blah. And so, just because I own a share of Delta stock doesn't mean I get to fly Delta for free. Just because we all buy the assets of Spirit Airlines doesn't mean we get to fly for free. There are still these realities of the expenses to run an entire business that will still be true even if we own it. And so if you want to be an owner of a company, like he's suggesting, don't buy Spirit. Spirit's dead. Spirit didn't work. The make your customers hate you and guarantee they'll never fly with you getting business model didn't work. I think making your customers like you is probably a better business model if you're out there and an aspiring entrepreneur. But if you want to be a part owner of an airline, go buy a share of Delta stock for, as of today, $73. And unfortunately, that doesn't really give you much other than the ability to sell it to someone later and collect any profits that they pay out in the form of dividends, which actually these days are 19 cents per quarter. So you can make about 80 cents a year off of your $73 investment. On its one share by itself doesn't sound that impressive, but if you buy a lot of shares and maybe even shares in a lot of companies in a convenient package called an index fund, you knew I was going to bring this back to index funds, Jen.
I knew you were going to. I just knew
you don't need to go do this crackpot Spirit thing. You can just buy an index fund, then you do own all the airlines and you get dividends. How great.
He had me fooled, this influencer, with that music. He played the music that you hear in like a war movie as the troops are getting ready to go out. I was feeling energized, but you really broke it down in a way that makes me feel like maybe we shouldn't buy Spirit Airlines.
Do not Venmo. It sounds like that guy was like getting some Venmos and everyone's like, this is not how you invest in companies. Do not Venmo some random dude that got 50,000 views. I don't know, I'm mocking his 50,000. 50,000 is a lot of views. It ain't enough to buy Spirit Airlines or any airline.
Just Venmoing a guy $30.
Just Venmo. Okay, do I own Spirit yet? When do I get on my flight? I'm like, nope, that's not going to work. And I feel for people who want that, because I do too. You want to own an airplane, you want free flights. Like the thing is, just you have to balance that desire with reality and ticket agents and airport fees and fuel and airplane leases and yada, yada, yada. That doesn't just go away. You still have to do it for real. And so if you want to start an airline, I'd probably start smaller and maybe figure out if there is 2 cities that don't have great connections and lease one plane and connect those 2 cities. Or, I don't know.
Now that you broke down the operating costs, I don't want to own the airline. That sounds terrible. It sounds like a lot of money.
I think airlines are one of like the worst industries traditionally, like historically, in terms of like profitability. Like they're barely profitable. Like most of them lose money. They keep getting propped up by like governments and investors because like air travel is like this magnificent like miracle of modern technology, but it's like not a good business. It's not a good business.
Sounds terrible.
So
like,
let's not buy
like people
Spirit,
like
guys.
Everybody has a food truck now. I'm like, they're like, don't do a brick and mortar restaurant. They're just money pits. I'm like, airline sounds like the worst of all of that.
No, it's true. I think part of being a good entrepreneur is just not knowing what you're getting into. Because if you really know like the ugly side of any business, it probably looks really, really ugly. But yeah, this is especially ugly. Especially buying an already failed airline. If the experts who've been doing it for 20 years can't get it to work, I doubt that like all of us led by the dude that flew Spirit for 24 hours in a row. Like that makes him he's like, vote for me for CEO. I think he's joking, by the way. Like that's not how any of this works, but apparently people were Venmoing him real money. So
it's crazy. I know. And it's like, if you are going to buy an airline, don't let it be Spirit. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Let's go buy British Airways or some cool international sounding airline.
For sure. Okay, let's move on to, do you want to have your question answered on the show? Go to personalfinanceclub.com/ask. Can I ask a dumb one?
You're asking smart questions to a dumb guy. Well, who do we have today?
We've got Shanna, who said her name rhymes with banana. I really appreciate that because that just makes it so clear. And she's from Prescott Valley. Oh, she even told me how to pronounce it and I not pronounce it wrong. Prescott Valley,
Shanana
Arizona.
rhyme with banana? Is it Shanna or Shanana? Banana, Shanana. Do we need to rhyme all the syllables? You can't just add
letters to her name.
Well, she's the one that brought up this rhyming thing.
She's the one that brought up the banana.
I'm calling her Banana Shanana from now on.
Shanna Banana.
Shanna Banana.
From Prescott, Arizona, asks, I had a financial advisor years ago and fired them / moved everything to Fidelity. I've automated my investments according to your advice, but all my prior investments rolled over. Do you have a resource or where do I begin to learn how to read my statement? How can I understand if these investments are good or if I should sell / rebalance?
All right, Shanna Banana. First of all, congrats. I mean, not that firing your financial advisor is automatically congrats, but I think looking into and deeply understanding your investments is a huge congrats, because even if you have a financial advisor, one crazy thing about money is no one will ever care about your money as much as you do. Even your financial advisor. They sadly care about their own money, as everyone does, because they're trying to run their businesses. And so they only care about your money insofar as they keep you as a customer, which this advisor hasn't so far, or hasn't apparently. And so to answer your question, what happened is you basically put all these old investments over from your old financial advisor. Now they're dumped in your Fidelity account. You're looking at, from what I understand, you probably have a nice little set of 2 or 3 index funds automatically invested that you are doing going forward, but you have this old set of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, whatever it is, and you're trying to figure out, are these good? What should I do with them? And so here's what I would say. Number one, no huge rush. You don't need to do anything immediately. Like leaving investments alone for a period of weeks or months, maybe even like a year, isn't a big deal if they're not perfectly optimal. I'd much rather you leave it there for a few months while you're figuring it out rather than do something rash and, cost yourself money and make a mistake. That said, when you're looking at investments, you can go and look up the investments. So the way you do that is you find the ticker symbol and you can Google it. And so, for example, if you have a ticker symbols are 1 to 5 letters. And if it's a mutual fund, it usually ends in an X. And so if you have a ticker symbol like ABCX, that'd be some sort of mutual fund that has a ticker symbol ABCX. And then usually there's a Morningstar link. Morningstar is a company that basically tracks mutual funds and knows all sorts of information about them. And you can look up the information on Morningstar. And, lots of different websites do this, but Morningstar is one of them. And the first thing I look at is the expense ratio. So for each of these investments, figure out what is it charging you per year to run the investment. And so if you buy an index fund, for example, like VTI is a index fund ETF, the expense ratio is 0.03%. That's very, very low. That means for every $1,000 you invest, it's only 30 cents per year, which is very, very low. But if you had a 1% expense ratio, for every $1,000 you invest, it'd be $10. That's much, much higher, right? 30 cents versus $10. And so Basically, I think anything over 0.1% starts to be a little bit curious. 0.5% I would call a high expense ratio, and 1% I would say is a very high expense ratio. And unfortunately, many financial advisors, the way they work is by basically putting you into high expense funds because they get a kickback from those fund managers. It's just like the unfortunate business model of a commission-based financial advisor. They have to put you in high expense ratio funds because that's how they get paid. It's pretty messed up if you ask me. So look at the expense ratios. Also look at the asset allocation, which is for each of these funds, is it stocks? Is it bonds? Is it international? Is it large cap? Is it small cap? And you kind of can get a sense of like what they're all doing. You'll probably find that your financial advisor puts you in a dozen or more random overlapping funds that all kind of do the same thing or all overlap in certain ways. And in my opinion and my experience, what they're doing is they're basically introducing complexity to justify their own existence. And I know this specifically because I was just looking at I used to have a financial advisor. Did you know that, Jen?
I could probably make an assumption, but I guess we've never talked about it.
Yeah, I hired back in 2015. What is that? 11 years ago now. I hired a financial advisor, and this was not a commission-based advisor. He said, "I'm just going to charge you a fee, a percent of your assets under management." And then he gave me this like insane pie chart that had, I think there's 33 individual positions, stocks, ETFs, like this gigantic mess, in my opinion, now with hindsight. But why did he do that instead of just say, hey, you could buy one target date index fund, or you could buy 3 ETFs, US international bonds, or 2 ETFs, VT and BND. There's very, very simple ways to achieve the virtually identical thing. And by
was he a flat fee advisor?
He was not a flat fee advisor. He wasn't a fee only advisor. He was, he worked for a big national company that charges any way they can get away with. But like with my account, I think I was primarily being charged a percent of assets under management. And so he wasn't getting a kickback from what he chose for me, but he still had this weird incentive to make a portfolio complex enough to think I couldn't do it myself, which I think is messed up. And, by choosing 33 individual positions, he's basically saying, hey, I've got some secret stock picking strategy that's going to beat the market. Therefore, you need to keep paying me the 1% per year. Of course, I looked into it over the
hold on. 2 more questions. What was your net worth at the time, and how old were you?
So I was 35, 34, and I'm 45. Yeah, 34. And I literally hired him like 2 weeks before the close of selling my company. So my net worth the day I hired him was 100,000, but it was about to become 2 million. And even back then I was like a little bit suspicious of financial advisors. So I was like, I don't know, I'll try this. And so I gave him $250,000. I gave him 250,000. And I said, okay, you take that money, do your thing. I'll take my money, do my thing. And then we can just compare, like not that he needs to see that comparison, but I'll compare. And I kind of followed along, and every quarter he would randomly buy some stocks, randomly sell some stocks, random from my perspective. From his perspective, he was trying to do some crazy stock picking thing. And of course, over time, he wasn't beating the market, if he was not by much, but he was charging me that 1% every year, which was $2,500 compounding over time.
How long did you have him before you fired him?
Like a couple of years, perfectly nice guy. Don't wish him any ill will or anything, but I think it just goes to the, and Shanna Banana here probably felt the same thing, which is like, what am I paying you for? If you're just sitting there on these stocks, like, why can't I do that? And we're kind of going on a side here, but the answer
I have so many questions because I'm so curious. I didn't know this. And now that you're bringing it up, I'm like, what?
It's good timing because I'm literally in the midst of making a post about this right now. So I've been like going through all my emails and all my like statements from 11 years ago. And now I'm like able to do a back test analysis to see, okay, you chose these 33 crazy stocks. Were they right? Like now I know because now I'm living in the future. And it turns out like, it just so happened like Apple was one of them, which was like, a good buy back then. And so it did really well. And so I think overall it like slightly beat the same 3-fund portfolio if you bought the same proportion of US international and bonds, but net of his fee, it didn't beat. So, it's just like barely beat, but then because I was paying him 1% per year, I ended up with less. And so it kind of like, it's like a perfect typical story of like, why did I go through all this stock picking when I could have just bought the index and not paid the fee?
Wow. Because I mean, I feel like I've heard you say in the past that it is good to have a few appointments with a financial advisor, but I guess if it's an assets under management, then it's not worth it because they might end up taking more than you make or whatever it may be. Like you might not make out better, but it is good if you're coming into some cash to talk to somebody who may know what they're talking about. Is that accurate?
Totally. I mean, here's like the big distinction. There's
Mm-hmm.
two main things I think financial advisors can do. One is asset management. That's a fancy way to say you transfer them all of your money, and then they choose the investments for you, and then they sit on them and make trades, and they manage your assets. The other half of what financial advisors can do is called financial planning. That's things like tax optimization and running scenarios about buying a vacation home or paying down your debt or student loans or saving for your kids or how to deal with inherited assets and the whole world of what to do with your money that's not just sitting on the assets, sitting on the investments and clicking buy. And the weird thing is that most financial advisors make their money by charging for the asset management. They charge a % of AUM, assets under management. And that part is very, very easy. Shanna Banana figured it out here. She's like, oh, I just, bought some index funds. I automated, boom, you're done. Like, that's it. That's asset management. You've solved it. But because that's where all the money is, that's where the business model largely is, where they take their %. And so financial advisors can be great, but as you probably know, I'm a big fan of a flat fee financial advisor where you pay them by the hour or by the project and not giving them just a % of your assets no matter what, because otherwise you get in the situation like I could have been in for the last 11 years where he's draining $2,500 per year compounding over time. And if that money, if I paid like a one-time financial plan of $2,500 and then maybe like an annual check-in for $500, that would be $2,000 per year compounding that I'm not now plowing, losing like the opportunity cost of investing. And so, this isn't to say financial advisors are bad, but don't pay for asset management if you don't need asset management.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So,
but I do want to answer the rest of Shanna's question, which is look at the expense ratios, look at the asset allocation. Is it US stocks, international stocks, bonds? I'd even look at the turnover %. There's a little stat on there that says when you're on that page on Morningstar, it'll tell you turnover %, which is how much of what's inside of this fund changes every year. Index funds, their turnover % is like 3 or 4%, meaning 96% of the stocks stay the same. And a few of the small stocks at the bottom of the list just get swapped out as they come in and out of business. Some funds have like over 100% turnover. That means in January, if they have 50 stocks, by December, they've traded all those 50 stocks multiple times and they have 50 new stocks. And, a high turnover % to me just says this is like chaotic stock picking and not actually a real organized investment plan. So that's how you kind of like identify if a fund is good. That said, your real goal, I think, is to keep it simple. Like, let's say you identify all these are good. Who cares? You don't need multiple good funds. You just need 1 or 3. Your plan that you've already put in place is good. And so I would really think hard about simplifying, saying, hey, can I sell all these and put them into my existing funds? And so when I open up my Fidelity account, I don't see 45 insane positions that I need to keep track of which ones are good, which ones are bad, which ones are up, which ones are down. I just have my 3 funds that are part of my plan. That said, depending on the type of account, you might have a tax implication here. So if this is a retirement account, IRA, SEP IRA, Roth IRA, rollover IRA, whatever it is, you can sell everything today, buy everything tomorrow, 100%, no problem. There's no realizing of capital gains inside of a retirement account, which is great. But if it's in a regular old taxable brokerage account, then you need to look at what's called the unrealized gains or losses. So for example, if you have one position in there that's up $200,000 and then you sell it, $200,000 is going to go on your taxes for this year, 2026, as an realized capital gain because you made $200,000. If you have another fund, I don't know your numbers, you didn't tell us what the scale is or anything, but I'm just giving you examples. If you have another fund that's down $100,000 and you sell that, then you'll have realized the loss. And so the up $200,000 and down $100,000, that offsets, and that reduces your $200,000 gain just to $100,000. And so basically, when you sell all these crazy positions to get into a much more simple portfolio, which I do think you should do, you should at least understand the impact of the taxes, because maybe you want to spread it out over calendar years. Maybe you want to, do it when you're not selling your home, or do it when you're realizing another loss. There might be ways there to basically be a little bit strategic about it to minimize your tax burden. And so this, like you're kind of saying, Jen, this would actually be a great opportunity for a flat fee financial advisor. The amazing thing about flat fee financial advisors is that they have no incentive to have you transfer all your assets to them and do something crazy to justify their own existence. They can just help you unwind this and say, okay, here's the plan. Sell these 4 things, buy this, do this on January 1st, do this during the rollover, do this contribution, like make you like a step-by-step plan. And they can even open up on Zoom, share a screen on your Fidelity screen and click through the buttons with you. Sometimes people think, oh, if I pay a flat fee financial advisor, I don't know how to do this stuff. They can literally just do it for you, but you just don't have to transfer your assets to them, giving them that weird incentive. And of course, this hasn't been a sales pitch, but it's about to be. And of course, if you're looking for a flat fee financial advisor, I literally started Nectarine because of this exact situation where people want financial advice. They just don't want the weird commissions like I was getting in 2 years ago, or AUM fees. And so you can go to hellonectarine.com and view a bunch of financial advisors. We have like 30 on the site right now. You can see the reviews, you can see their prices, you can book them for an hour, you can book them for a plan. And so for you, Shanna, depending on your skill, if we're talking like $1,000 here, don't even bother. Just go sell it all and pay the, $100 in taxes or whatever it is. If we're talking about $1 million, yeah, you should probably go pay for, a couple of $1,000 for a plan to put in place to mitigate that taxes and make sure that you're on the right way. So there's a little bit of, business, is it worth it math that needs to be done when you're hiring a flat fee advisor, for sure.
I love it. Yeah, I like Shanna's question, and I like that it just feels like there's so much anxiety around all this stuff, and you're just so worried about, like, am I doing the right thing? And sometimes you just need a little check-in. Like, it's like going to a personal trainer for like a couple weeks. Like, you don't need a personal trainer every week, but you need to know if you're doing the right things. Then you can go on your own, because really most of the work is done when you're like not with them, right? So like,
totally.
Maybe she just needs a little tune-up.
A personal trainer is a great example, which is like a lot of times if you go to a personal trainer for a couple of weeks in a row, you learn a ton. You're like, oh, okay, like I get how hard I need to be pushing myself. I have a plan to put in place.
Right.
And, some people just need the motivation. They need someone there barking orders at them, which is like legit. If you want that, great.
Right.
Some people are like, oh, dude, in 2 weeks, I like learn this. I can go to the gym and do this myself. Yeah. And, getting a flat fee financial advisor kind of is that personal trainer where you don't need to go to them to work out. You can still work out on your own, but they can give you the whole plan right there. They can print it out. They can even, bark orders at you and share a screen on Fidelity if you want, or not if you want to. But it's nice because there's not the weird incentive with the commissions and all that.
For sure. My brother was a personal trainer for a while, and he was like, I was a therapist. Because he's like, most people, they just don't, it's like, there's things that you need to know about like form that are very important, and you can injure yourself otherwise. But he's like, most people just want to like, I'm getting married in 6 weeks and I need to be skinny. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So you don't want to like lifetime personal, like whatever goal. You just want like this one thing. So it's like a little tune up so that you can like, and then the people who are going to use it are going to use it. And you can't stop somebody from making bad decisions down the road if they're not going to like, that's in their heart, it's more of an emotional thing than anything else.
I've heard that about physical therapists too, where, by the way, I have a huge amount of respect for physical therapy. It's like saved my joints on many occasions, but like, very honest ones will say a lot of the time we're just babysitting them until the body heals itself, because there's no magic, no magic way to move your elbow that's going to make your elbow heal. Your body needs to heal. And of course there are exercises you need to do to strengthen and make sure it heals well and yada, yada, yada. But they're like a lot of this is just, and there's all these parallels with investing. It's not like the financial advisors making money, like time makes the money. Owning things and letting the stock market do its work is making money. But having someone putting you on a path and putting a plan in place, I think can make a big difference.
Oh my God, that's so real. I tweaked my like ankle and I went to physical therapy. I went to like 4 sessions maybe. And you know what actually helped me was like it was starting to work, and I was like, oh, if I like did these things with my body all the time, I probably wouldn't have even twisted my ankle because I would have been like more mobile and more flexible and whatever. So yeah, I like this. I thought that Shannon's question is really good. I'm glad we got to it, and I think you did a great job, Jeremy.
Oh my gosh, thanks, Jen. What's next?
Okay, let's get into Scroll Patrol.
Scroll Patrol.
Whoop, whoop. Okay. So I've gotten a video actually that I got from one of our followers. I won't say his handle just in case, but Matt S on Instagram sent us a Scroll Patrol, and we love that. So if you guys have any, send them our way. So Jeremy has not seen this video. We're going to play it together, and he's going to react and give it a score. So as you know, the stakes are high. So Jeremy, go ahead and click on that video and let's watch it together.
All right, let's see this.
Did you like that music?
Yeah. I gotta add that to my playlist. Like,
I feel like I'm at a rave.
I know, it's like some royalty-free rave music or something like that.
I kind of vibed with it.
So I actually really like this illustration, and I think maybe not everyone really understands what they're looking at, but if you're just listening, I'm going to try to describe it. If you're just listening, you probably heard some...
Sorry, audio listeners. Get on YouTube. We need some more follows there.
I know. Actually, now that I say it out loud, I'm like feeling really bad for the audio listeners. But what you just didn't see was an animated line chart with 2 lines. And it's kind of like a roller coaster line chart, as I call it, where you can kind of see it happening in real time, going up and down. And the 2 lines are, one, the S&P 500 from 1993 to 2026. And then the other, it just says one company. And what that means is the S&P 500 is kind of like a living list of the 500, more or less. It's not the 500 biggest, but it's the 500 companies that are on this list that they track, that kind of largely track the 500 biggest. And so as a new company grows, it kind of moves its way up the list. And as an old company or a failing company falls, it goes down the list until it falls off and a new company comes on. And so index funds are what they call self-cleansing, because it always has this like new emergence of new up-and-coming companies being inserted on the bottom list and old companies falling off the bottom list. And then the biggest companies at the top are just constantly shifting based on who the biggest is. This is saying, hey, instead of buying the 500 biggest companies, just buy the S&P 1. Just buy the 1 biggest and keep swapping it out. Instead of having a list of 500 where things fall on and off the bottom, just buy the list of 1 where the biggest, and it kind of went through them. It was, it was ExxonMobil, it was Microsoft, it was General Electric, it was ExxonMobil again, it was Apple, Microsoft, and NVIDIA is what it currently is. And so it actually shows, hey, if you did that from 1993 to today, instead of a 2,700% gain, like you would have gotten the S&P 500, which was great, you'd have a 24,000% gain if you were buying the S&P 1. Actually, it does say the S&P 1 in the caption there. I thought I was just making that up. I just saw this for the first time. I didn't fact check this, but I actually potentially believe this. I think that these numbers are probably correct. The problem is, any of these like kind of backward looking, hey, look what happened if you did this type of trend, that doesn't mean it's going to happen in the future. And in fact, a lot of times what's a really unusual thing that happened in the past, like, oh, wow, the biggest company actually grew faster than like all the other 499. That might not happen in the future, right? Oh, actually the smallest companies are going to be growing faster. And so owning those is even better. And so while I do think this is like really interesting and it's like a good like piece of knowledge to wrap your head around like what it's talking about, I wouldn't suggest doing this because, these types of trends, as soon as kind of people pick up on them, the opposite becomes true. And in fact, if you, even earlier in the video when you're only, whatever is like 5 or 6 years in, the one company was losing, right? So at the beginning, one company was losing. And so it just so happens that the previous outperformance has really been stark. But there's other periods like back in, let's see, the .com bust, the one company was losing by a lot. And so if there's another crash where the biggest companies are hurt more than the medium and small companies, you're going to be hurt more. So I think this is a cool video. I don't suggest you do it as a investment strategy. I don't know how to grade it, but I'm going to give it a B-. The good part is I think it's a cool video. The bad part is don't do this.
Okay, I'm glad you broke it down because I was a little confused. I was like, I don't know if this is a good or a bad video, so B-.
Do you get it now? Like, do you get what it's showing there? It's just saying, hey, if you only, like, every time the biggest company swapped, you sell what was the old biggest company and buy a new biggest company and put all your money just in one company. So you'd literally, instead of just owning one index fund, you'd own one stock at a time, but it'd be up to you to, like, every time the biggest company on earth switched, you sell the old one, buy the new one that day and continue. I mean, like, and it is because, like, look, if you look at the .com era, the one company was like dramatically outperforming, and then in the course of a few years, it was dramatically underperforming. It crashed, and so part of the benefit of this, like, very diverse approach of the S&P 500, or an even more diverse approach, like a global index fund, is you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. And obviously, you would swap that company when it fails, like, if, you have the new biggest company, but that strategy, I don't think we have any reason to be sure it's going to work in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Yay. Thank you.
Yay.
That down. Shall we move on?
And thanks, Matt, for sending it in.
Yes, thanks,
Matt. Send us all your please insane videos that you see.
Yeah, better.
By the way,
better music. Boom.
Yeah, better music.
Boom.
Jen's actually, very critical of the music.
I'm not. I'm just saying, like, I kind of vibe with it, but I was like, anyway. All right, let's get into our last segment. Money. Jeremy had time today. This post, you're yelling at me in the
comments, and I'm going to yell at you back on my microphone.
They are in the comments. Okay, so this Instagram post is titled "Puppies versus Babies." Now, when you first posted this, I had questions. I was like, "What's Jeremy getting into?" And then I read it, and I was like, "Okay, I'm on Team Jeremy right now," because I was like, that could get weird. Could have gone weird.
What did you think I was suggesting? Something crazy like?
I had no idea where your little brain was going to go, Jeremy. So I just said, let me read this caption before I jump to conclusions and quit my job.
No one reads the caption.
So do you want to explain the post before we get into the comment section?
Yeah, it just says, when are babies separated from their mothers? And then on the left-hand side, it shows like 8 little calendar weeks and an emoji dog and an emoji puppy. And it says, in most states, it's illegal to separate a puppy from its mother before 8 weeks, which makes sense because those are little tiny puppies and they need to be with their mother. And of course, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. But then on the right-hand side, it shows 2 calendar weeks instead of 8, 1/4 the size. Mm-hmm. And it says, the U.S. provides 0 federal paid maternity leave. 25% of new moms return to work within 2 weeks. Can you imagine, imagine a 2-week puppy. It's like, blind, it's got no fur, it's like needs its mommy. Like, now imagine a 2-week baby, same thing, and moms are going back to work. It's like heartbreaking. As like I'm a relatively new dad of a 1-year-old, to think of sending a 2-week-old mom back to work is heartbreaking to me.
I didn't know the puppy rule. I'm not gonna lie. I guess
it makes sense, right? Like, we'd be pretty effed up to like steal puppies away from its mom so young. And it's obviously people made some good points in the comments, like, this isn't a perfect analogy because you're not taking the baby away from mom forever. She's just going back to work for a few hours a day. Whereas with a puppy, they're usually separated forever and go to a new family or whatever. But still, I think the spirit of it remains the same, which is like, why are we so much more cavalier with separating moms and babies, even for 8 hours a day, whatever it is, than we are with puppies.
And I'm also sure that there's people that separate puppies from their mother before 8 weeks.
But there's laws against that. So it's like, those should be enforced because that's effed up. And, we should rethink the human law maybe. Unless you're this commenter who said what?
People break laws all the time. Okay, this commenter said, I hear what I just want to start by saying I'm not sure if this person's mad at you. Maybe they're just mad at, in general. But like this is what they said. I hear what you were saying, but why is it also another preface? The sentence structure is not great, so I'm going to do my best.
You'd think all these angry comments usually have perfect grammar and capitalization, but.
So they say, I hear what you're saying, but why is it society's responsibility to provide this care? Why can't we reduce taxes? If we taught true economic principles in school, like your 2 rules, which would make caring for our children financially attainable on a single income, ? So take that as you will.
Yeah, was that a question?
Is it a question?
Yeah. So, this is getting political, not political in specifically endorsing a candidate or something, but I think this really gets at the heart of, progressive versus conservative values. And I remember being in high school. This was a long time ago. Now I'm old. And I learned, what Republican and Democrat meant. Like, there was like a, U.S. history class or a political science class or whatever it was. And they said, Republicans believe in smaller government, lower taxes, and letting people have more of their money so they can work hard and keep most of their money and live a good life. And I thought, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. And they said Democrats are for like slightly higher taxes but more social programs, so people who are in more desperate need of help, get help and are carried up by all of society, paying slightly higher taxes. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense too. Like, I like that too, because people who need help. And, I think the very, the core of that argument is both sides, I think, generally want good things for people. I think even, conservatives say, hey, like this commenter is saying, hey, wouldn't it be better if we didn't pay for mother's child, new moms paid maternity leave, and instead everyone worked hard and had more money for themselves with less government, and then we'd all, and I think kind of like the subtext sometimes is, if we are taxing hardworking people and giving it to freeloading 2-week-old moms, it would incentivize working people to stop working hard and incentivize us all to just become lazy bums living off the government. And thus society would collapse because no one would want to be working hard. I think that's kind of like the point of the free market, saying, hey, if we need to have this incentive to work hard for ourselves so that everyone does work hard. My response to them is a few things. One is, this is currently happening. This isn't a theoretical, does pulling yourself up by your bootstraps work or not? This is today, 25% of moms are returning to work within 2 weeks. And not, I don't think, because they've been incentivized to be lazy, stupid 2-week-old moms. Like, there is no incentive. There is no maternity leave. We already live in the world where they have to save and they have to earn money. And he's saying, shouldn't we teach true economic principles in school? Yeah, I'm 100% bored with that. But I don't necessarily think personal finance education in school alone is a silver bullet. I think it's currently happening, which should be addressed, because I think you need to have a little bit of empathy in your soul, I hope, for the new mom who's leaving their super fragile, blind little baby who needs to nurse at home while they go back to work so they can afford, have this impossible decision to make if they're trying to make the rent and afford food and leave the baby with a stranger or a grandparent or whatever it is. Or do they stay home and not have the money and get evicted? That's currently happening. I think as a tiebreaker, what's better? Should society take on a little bit of the burden to help new moms, or should people be incentivized to pull themselves by the bootstraps? I think we just kind of need to look at data. And there's lots and lots of data that points to society as a whole benefiting when there's paid maternity leave. Mm-hmm. If there's paid maternity leave, a few things happen. One, there's lower infant mortality rates because of things like breastfeeding, medical visits, parental supervision, less daycare-born illness. If we can keep moms home for longer, babies do better. When babies do better, they're smarter, they go to better schools, they are more productive, they pay more tax, like they're not dead, all the things that we kind of want to have happen in society, right? When moms stay home longer, there's higher vaccination and checkup rates. They're going to doctors more. They're not getting like those things missed at, while they're at daycare and things like that. There's higher maternal health, things like lower postpartum depression. If you're going back to, work in 2 weeks when your own body is not even nearly healed, I read it's like takes about 2 years to kind of get back to a stable, what is it called? The fluids inside your body that make you crazy or not?
Oh, homeostasis? No. Oh, hormones.
No, hormones, yeah.
I was like, what?
Doctors do not come for me how I just described hormones. But I think it takes like 2 years before your hormones in your body.
What did you say? The liquids that make you crazy? Is that what you called it?
Or not, I said the fluids inside your body that make you crazy or not. I don't even know if they're fluids or if it's just proteins or peptides or something. I hope my wife never listens to this. I often say to her when she nags me, I'm like, are those fluids inside your body making you crazy again?
Divorce.
She loves that. Yeah, I know. I've blocked her. You know how you can block people on social media? I've blocked her from this podcast. She's forbidden from listening. She's going to learn what I truly don't know about.
I'll send her the files, her email.
The highlights. Here's the time points where he talked
I'm like,
about
girl, go check out episode 38. Your man is wildin'.
19 minutes and 30 seconds. You're going to want to get a good lawyer.
Lock in.
All right. But okay, all you conservative value people out there saying, okay, we don't care about moms, we don't care about babies. What we care about is money, just like Jesus wanted. And I'll tell you what, there's also economic benefit. Research from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, and the National Bureau of Economic Research found that when moms stay home longer with paid maternity leave, they have increased female labor force participation. They're more likely to return to the same employer. They have less career interruption. They have higher long-term earnings. And without that leave, they would often quit forever, get a worse job, lose career progress. And so having all those positive economic factors lead to higher long-term tax revenue. So when mothers have longer paid leave, they stay longer in their career, they have higher lifetime earnings, they have higher tax contributions, and they have lower reliance on other social programs. Economists call this a fiscal payback. So it's saying, hey, if we support them temporarily for a few weeks when we're in this most fragile time with a baby and they can't work and they're making this impossible decision, that pays off and then some for all these longer term economic benefits. And so if you're saying, hey, this is a pure screw infant mortality, what's a few dead babies on our hands? If you don't care about that argument, we're gonna actually make more tax. The moms are gonna be paying more taxes because their careers are better, because they're able to survive this pause in their career development rather than just getting sidetracked because they had to quit entirely. And a final argument is, this is a big Elon Musk one. If you're worried about birth rates, when they combine like countries, the birth rates that have better paid maternity leave generally have higher birth rates. Moms, young women, young couples are more likely to have kids if they think they can weather the economic storm it's going to bring to their family because there's some paid maternity leave built into the society. And, some people, want to say, okay, that's good, but it should be, companies give paid maternity leave, not governments, because we don't trust government. I'm like, yeah, maybe, but I go back to point one, which is it's happening. 25% of moms, that's a big chunk, are going back within 2 weeks because their companies don't. So what do we do, right? Do we just say, okay, well, if you work for Apple, great, they've got great paid maternity leave. If you work for a grocery store, F you, your baby's going to be in a gutter somewhere, And so obviously I have my perspective. By the way, the U.S. is very weird in not having paid maternity leave. There's about 200 countries ballpark in the world. 188 of those have known maternity leave policies. Of the 188 that have a maternity leave policies, 8 do not have paid maternity leave for moms. Those 8 are Suriname, Liberia, Palau, Nauru, Western Samoa, Tonga, Papua New Guinea, and the United States of America. we're in good company with these others. Those are obviously like very small, less westernized, less developed, less wealthy countries. Those 8 don't have paid maternity leave, or those 7, and the U.S. So, every other country you've ever heard of, there's some sort of paid maternity leave because it's all these benefits. And so, I don't think I'm being that much of a wacko pink lib pronoun. Women should be competing in men's sports, whatever it is to say. Like there are, I do think that this, the attack on woke culture has gone so far that we can't even have like a fiscal conversation about anything that like doesn't pass the litmus test. I think paid maternity leave has a lot of benefits. That's my answer to you, commenter who misspelled a lot of words.
I know that which was my favorite. I'm like, there's an X in which?
Maybe he's doing that thing with pronouns where it's like, he puts an X instead of a her or his or something.
I highly doubt it. If everything that you said is true, that this person is not putting X's in words to indicate pronouns.
I also doubt it. But you never know. Maybe they're transgender trying to make the Olympics and just really don't like new moms.
Quit the podcast.
I quit the podcast.
I quit.
We're gonna edit out this entire episode. You asked me a political question. That's like you said like what's better, Democrats or Republicans, but don't make it political.
I did not ask you that question, and this is our last episode of the Personal Finance Club show.
Thank you. It's been
Thank
a pleasure.
you all for joining us. We had a good run, 38 episodes, not bad, but I have to quit. Okay. I despite how you crashed out at the end, I agree with you. and I guess we'll end on that note.
Oh, come on, Jen. It wasn't a crash out. It was just, I don't know what it was. A list of hot fun topics you should not bring up at Thanksgiving.
And you just like put them all in one sentence.
Well, because I'm just saying, because I feel like these days it's just like, oh, if you say anything, you're everything, and there's like no nuance anymore. I'm like, every one of these topics is like a different nuanced thing, and I think like deserves like thoughtful consideration. And we're so in tribal warfare. It's like if you're not wearing a blue shirt, it's like literally like Bloods and Crips. Like I don't care. There's no crossover, and they're blue and red too, right? Are we full on just Bloods and Crips across the U.S. now?
Yo, Jeremy, Bloods
Jen's
and
like,
Crips
oh wait, we haven't
crazy.
offended gangs yet. We haven't offended the Southern California gangs where we both live, and we are now and I'm wearing a blue shirt, so I think the Bloods probably aren't going to be happy.
So you're a Crip? Is that what?
Aren't the Crips blue? Is that
breaking news? Jeremy would like to announce his dedication to the Crips on the Personal Finance Club show.
Oh, you don't think the blue has already been projecting that? I was on a jury once in a criminal trial, attempted murder, and it was literally a gang member. He was like a Blood or a Crip, I forget which, and I like sat through this whole jury. And so if they weren't out for me then they're out for me now. Probably on paper, as they call it.
You have gang lingo? That's what they say on paper?
Do you know what that gang lingo means? I learned that from being I'm like the nerdiest, least gang guy ever, because I learned about gang lingo from being on a jury.
Is that actually gang lingo?
It is on paper. My understanding was, this was a while ago, but my understanding was if you're on paper, that means like the police are aware of you and you have some sort of, track record with the police, and you don't want to be on paper because
I'm from the suburbs of Massachusetts. I don't know any of this. Okay. I'm not going to try and act like a gangster.
Me either. You learned what PJ means from rap song. That's closer than me.
I guess I wasn't paying attention to the gang lessons.
The gang lessons, yeah. Fair enough. Me either. All right. Good episode. I'm sure we've offended everyone. All 3 of our listeners now have been offended. So thank you. If you're willing to listen to us again, come next week and we'll tell you the same thing, which is to follow the 2 rules of Personal Finance Club. Rule number 1, live below your means, and rule number 2, invest early and often. See you next week.
The Personal Finance Club show is produced by Jeremy Schneider and Jen Mundia. Music by Esabalu and Homie. Send your questions to podcast@personalfinanceclub.com. The Personal Finance Club show is co-hosted by Jeremy Schneider, who is a co-owner of Nectarine, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The views expressed on this show are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Nectarine. Please refer to hellonectarine.com for all relevant disclosures. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as personalized investment advice or a solicitation to buy or sell any security. Listeners should consult their own financial, legal, or tax professionals for advice specific to their situation.